Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aisha Downey, and today I'm going to be talking to you all about my language arts lesson plan for TESOL Methods class. And I just wanted to tell you all that I've created this lesson based on the proficiency levels of my students. So my students are in the beginning levels of English language learning. I want you guys to keep in mind that this is a second grade classroom. So I decided to create my lesson geared towards word work, focusing on spelling and vocabulary work with my students. I wanted to focus particularly on initial consonant blends because I think it is crucial for students' reading development. Reading development is dependent upon the understanding that letters and letter patterns represent sounds of spoken language. So according to our text, which can be found on page 159, ELLs benefit from daily explicit instruction in vocabulary. So one of the first techniques that I incorporated into this lesson was a song on blends that can be found via YouTube, and I'll also be showing it later on in this video. And this is pretty much a song, and it's a song as a way to help. It's a blend song that's I incorporate it as a way to help students with pronunciation practice and their listening skills. Another technique that I incorporated into this lesson was one-way listening tasks. And again, according to our text, the goal of one-way listening is for learners to obtain information from the listening text with minimum or no interaction with the speaker. So one-way listening task requires learners to understand the meaning of what is said without the need to give immediate responses. Learners listen to different kinds of spoken text read aloud by the teacher. So in my lesson, you will see that students will be given an index card with a particular blend on it. And as I read the given tree, students are to hold up their index card when they hear the blend. It is also important to note that the given tree is a story that was read previously to this class as a way to understand the story. So as I'm reading the story, this is not my first time reading this story to the class. This is like the second or third time reading the story. The first time that I read the story to the given tree, it was for them to understand what was happening in the story. But this time the goal has changed. They're now listening for blends. Okay, so with this lesson, I decided to revisit the same text as a way to focus on phonics and word work. Instead of focusing on the main ideas of the story, we're focusing on word work and phonics instruction. So again, going back to our text, we are to teach multiple literacy skills, but keep constant focus on meaning making. So our text suggests keeping the following 6 principles in mind. And this can be found on page 161. And it just says that after students initially read a text or a book to understand or discuss what it says, or for some other authentic communicative purpose, the class should return to the same text to focus on phonics or word work using words from that text. So that is what I'm doing with this lesson. The second principle that they mentioned is that teachers should do phonics work with ELLs using L2 words they already know, or go back to a text they read previously for meaning, to introduce words that have new sound patterns, word structures, prefixes, suffixes, word roots, or word classes. So in this case, I'm focusing on blends. So we're revisiting the text and focusing specifically on blends. Number 3, whenever possible, teachers should make connections to words and sound patterns in the ELL's L1 as well as to other similar L2 words that they already know. Number 4, teachers should keep word work short, focused, and interesting using a variety of activities that foster this awareness in children, including songs, rhymes, and poetry. This work should be done using big book, shared reading, or collaborative writing activities. So as you guys will see, I'll be using a video as the anticipatory set to my lesson. So I'll be showing a video soon as a way to ease into my lesson and get the kids engaged and interested in wanting to know more about blends. So number 5, second to the last principle. Teachers should keep in mind that the point of such instruction is to facilitate comprehension of what is read, not to recite rules. And number 6, teachers should remember that ultimately the goal of all reading instruction is to develop independent readers. So ultimately, that is my goal with this lesson, is to develop independent readers. Also getting kids to identify blends, being able to pronounce different words, and identifying blends in those words to help them pronunciate those words better. So I'm going to go ahead and ease right into my lesson. Just as a reminder, this is kind of like a culminating activity. So kids have been learning about blends all throughout the week. They have already read the Giving Tree with me before, prior to this lesson, so they are familiar with the overall concept, the meaning of the story. And today we're just focusing on phonics instruction, being able to identify blends in the story. So I would start my lesson off with reiterating that we've been studying initial consonant blends, and initial just means the beginning. So 2 or more consonants put together in the beginning of a word to make one sound. And I will start my lesson off by playing this video. And I'm just going to show it here on my tablet, my iPad.
Children's songs, sing and move along. Children's songs make your brain and body strong. They are 2 letters that work together to help make words begin. They are 2 letters that work together and you can call them blends. They are 2 letters that work together to help make words begin. They are 2 letters that work together and you can call them blends. Here are some letters that work together. B says B, R says R. Together they say brr, like in bread. C says K, R says R. Together they say crr, like in crocodile. D says D, R says R. Together they say drr, like in dragon. F says R says R. Together they say frr, like a frog. Ribbit. G says G, R says R. Together they say grr, like in grapes. P says P, R says R. Together they say purr, like in present. T says T, R says R. Together they say trr, like in train. B says B, L says L. Together they say bull, like in block. C says B, L says L. Together they say cool, like in clown. F says F, L says L. Together they say full, like in flag. They are 2 letters that work together to help make words begin. They are 2 letters that work together and you can call them blends. They are 2 letters that work together to help make words begin. They are 2 letters that work together and you can call them blends. They are 2 letters that work together. If you like this video.
All right. So after playing that video, I will go over and pretty much go over that blends are two letters that work together, and we can call them blends. So that is a nice chant for them to say, to help them remember what a blend is. From there, I would actually have students turn and talk to their neighbor. So think, pair, share. Have them name one word beginning with the blend that was played in the video. So have them identify a blend, and then we'll talk about those different blends that they noticed in the video. And from that point on, I would pull up an anchor chart, and I would mention to them this anchor chart here that we're going to be focusing on R blends, S blends, and L blends. And each student will get either an R blend, an S blend, or an L blend on an index card. And from there, I would ask them, for example, if they had the TR blend, which is an R blend, I would say, hey, I would like for you to turn and talk to your neighbor. Tell your neighbor one word that begins with your blend. So I will give them a moment to turn and talk to their neighbor and tell them one word that begins with their blend. And then from there, after the minute is over, I'll have them turn back and share aloud their blend. Once they have shared aloud their blend, I'll write it on the board, write their words on the board. And if there's a student who maybe doesn't understand or who's tripped up, then I will make the necessary clarifications, address any misconceptions during this time. And from that point on, I will go into the given tree. And I would start off by telling them that we're going to read the given tree. And as I'm reading the given tree, I would like for them to listen for their blend. Before they listen before we actually read the story, I will turn to the page. Turn to page 11, and I would ask them to listen as I read this sentence, and I want them to hear the blends in the words. So I would say, he would climb up her trunk and swing from her branches. Who can tell me one word that they heard that had a blend in? And I would expect a student to raise their hand and say, climb. And I would say, excellent. Great job. Climb. Now, what blend is in the word climb? And they can say CL. And then I can ask them, well, is that an L blend, an S blend, or an R blend? And they would say an L blend. And then I would say, how do you know? Because there's an L in it. And then from there, I would expect other students to say trunk. And then I would ask them, is that an S blend, an R blend, or an L blend? And swing, is that an S blend, an L blend, or R blend? And branches, is that an S blend, an R blend, or L blend? And after reading that sentence, that'll be like a test trial. I'll say, great job identifying the blends, the 4 different words with blends in that sentence. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to reread the story, and I want you to listen for your blend. And as I'm reading, I would like for you to just hold up your index card when you hear your blend, but do not shout out your word. So that is just a preview of my lesson. This is, again, the goal is for students to be able to identify S blends, R blends, and L blends in the given tree, and to be able to create blends based off of the words in this story during independent practice. Again, the goal was for them to be able to identify blends to help them become better readers. If you guys have any questions or any concerns, feel free to ask me. All right, take care. Bye.